Hey y'all, this is Byron. Just want to put something out there. Yes, I am a mental health therapist, and yes, my couch is quite comfortable. However, if you're listening to this podcast, it is not a substitute for a therapeutic relationship with a certified or licensed mental health therapist. So, though I appreciate you taking the time out to listen to me and hopefully gain some information and insight about what's going on with you from listening to this podcast, take the time to seek out mental health resources in your area if you so need to. Thanks for listening, and hope you enjoy.
Thinking of cruising, a race cap it to the side. Thinking the police gon' pull me over with this herb off in my ride. So I hide the brick of weed under the armrest, under the leather. And thinking of starting the ways to make my life a little bit better than the dope peddler.
Oh, takes on don't sit. Oh, whoa!
I'll believe it when I see it.
Don't you dare be sour. Clap for your world famous six-time champs and your WWE Champion. And feel the power. It's a new day. Yes, it is.
I wonder if I...
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you back to the Captain's Couch. I'm your host, Byron Taylor. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening again this week to this fantastic voyage of a ride that I've embarked on. Like to say a special thanks to our guest announcers for the podcast this week. Your six-time and current SmackDown Live tag team champions, as well as your current WWE champion, the New Day, for bringing us in for the podcast today. And there is a particular reason why I did add that clip of the New Day to the podcast this week. As I talked about last week, after I kind of laid into our Yao Mans that's in the White House. This week's episode is along the lines of the mantra of the New Day and the power of positivity. As some of you know who follow me on social media, and of course my daughter, if she ever does one day listen to this, knows I am a big time supporter of the New Day. Three African American wrestlers who came together in late 2014, 2015 in an effort to basically reshape their destinies as performers and bring about a new dynamic that is very rarely seen in wrestling, as three African American performers who are kind of very much in a way at this point in their careers a self-made success. And a large part of the reason that they've grown to be as successful as they are is they employed the power of positivity. So this week's episode, we're going to break down the concept of self-talk. And I mentioned the New Day because I imagine that it took an incredible amount of self-talk for Kofi Kingston, who is your WWE champion, and Xavier Woods and Big E, who are the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, to come together as the New Day with an idea of, we want to be three African American men who are tired of waiting for our opportunities, of tired of, kind of spinning our wheels in this company, that we have the talent, we have the tools, we have the skills. We're going to go out and get it. And we're not going to wait for you all to give it to us. I imagine that it took a lot of self-talk to get them through the conversations where Vince McMahon tells them, guess what, guys? We're going to put a black gospel choir behind you, and you guys are going to be preachers. And if you know a bit about wrestling, wrestling is pretty stereotypical and racist. So if you are a black performer, you are basically saddled with a few different gimmicks between being thugs, criminals, kind of ghetto, preachers, servants, the strong silent type, or dancing. And not so much in the way that the New Day do the dancing, because clearly you would never see black men just twerking if they didn't think that it was comical or funny for their own sake to do it. Where I mean by dancing is like the always smiling, happy-go-lucky guy, which Kofi Kingston actually used to be the happy-go-lucky guy who would just go out there and wrestle, and he didn't have much depth to his character. But the thing I love about the New Day are the subtle and yet not so subtle nods to black culture, their place in the pantheon of society and history, where it comes to Kofi being the first African-born WWE champion and the second Grand Slam champion, which means he's won all 4 of the upper tier belts in the company, to the New Day being the longest reigning tag team champions, Kofi being the longest reigning individual to be a tag team champion in company history, to, selling all kinds of merchandise and having all kinds of records being broken, and money that they're making, and being able to be their authentic selves, whether that's Kofi representing his Guyanan heritage, getting to go to Africa and go to Ghana with the WWE Championship with him, and knowing how much it meant to his country to go back home at the end, been home for 20 years, to have those moments, to have Xavier Woods, who, if I were a wrestler, would be Xavier Woods. He is a black nerd who has a PhD in psychology and plays video games, to Big E, who was a former Division I athlete, to power lifter, to become a wrestler and be probably the funniest of the 3 members of the New Day. The amount of probably self-talk to will themselves through, this gimmick is terrible, we're not going to be able to get over, to, we're drowning here. Vince kind of left us to kind of hanging, dead men in the water, to get to the heights that they reached. Took a lot of optimism, confidence, and what they wanted to present and who they wanted to be. I forgot to put this thing on vibrate. Sorry. Confidence and who they saw themselves as, to not feed into the negativity that they were getting from the crowd, to not feed into the negativity they were getting from people in the back, such as Big Show, who was telling Kofi Kingston that, hey, this is stupid, these idiots are going to get you fired, to even, having conversations with Vince McMahon where Vince thought, hey, this was a great idea, with him completely ignoring the social disconnect that was going on with the product and with the performers, looking at him like, dude, what are you doing? No, this is not going to work. The amount of positive self-talk to keep themselves motivated to move forward and not saying, well, we're quitting, we're out, led them to where they are and to leading them to the highest of the heights. And there was probably one of the most prescient moments, I think, is after Kofi won the championship at WrestleMania, is all 3 of them in the ring crying. Woods like uncontrollably crying, so much so that he could barely lift Kofi up as he celebrated. But then as the tears subsided and the joy just like really kicked in, and Woods screaming into the camera, they said we couldn't make it, but we made it to the top, as Kofi is in the ring with his kids, and his kids are having a ball, and Ian Woods are just a part of the moment. And seeing the amount of joy and the amount of work that the 3 of them put together and what it means for the culture, whether that's them calling out racist gimmicks or quoting Bone Crusher or Mystical or Outcast or so many things that I love about the New Day. The power of positivity is definitely a thing that has gotten them thus far as a trio in the past 5 years. So when we talk about self-talk, one of the things that self-talk does is it kind of propels you going whenever you have kind of struggles or negative things that may take place. This article, I have a few different articles I'm going to reference today because there's a few different points I'm going to talk about. So this week I want to kind of go over what positive self-talk is, what self-talk is in general, and like how it fosters and what the purpose of self-talk is, of positive self-talk is, as opposed to negative self-talk. And next week we'll talk about negative self-talk, some of the effects of it, and the different types of negative thought processes that feed into negative self-talk. Positive self-talk works to try to help promote and sustain optimism, hope, and joy. So people who have those things typically are individuals who utilize positive self-talk. One of the reasons why it's important to try to work to utilize positive self-talk is when we think back over our lives, we often are kind of riddled with the mistakes or the regrets or some of the guilt and shame over the things that we've messed up or we've done wrong in our lives. Part of that starts in things like your childhood, where you're often kind of pointed out about some of the negative things that you do with your misbehavior or things that you may get wrong in the classroom, relationships that may go wrong, fighting with your siblings at home. We remember the negative reactions that we get from other people, sometimes other children, that sometimes will diminish how we feel about ourselves. So throughout the years, we're going to have feelings and messages where we're going to feel things like anger, fear, guilt, shame, hopelessness, helplessness sometimes, that feed into negative self-talk, and sometimes feed into how we talk to ourselves, such as things like, well, I can't do this, or I'm not as good as such and such at doing this, or what's the point of even trying, or even sometimes the self-talk that we have towards other people and other situations. Well, those people get more privileges than I get. Why do they get treated better? Those things contribute to the type of self-talk that eventually hurts us over time. So one of the things that I like to work on a lot with my kids is working on changing their self-talk. For a lot of my kids, they're struggling with feelings of anger and mood disorders, feelings of shame or guilt, as they're growing and going to school and, trying to work to get along with other people or trying to get along with themselves sometimes. One of the things I want to try to constantly work on with my kids is shifting how they talk to themselves through situations, especially situations where they're struggling, where they feel like they're failing at, where they may feel like they're disappointing their parents or they're not doing well in school. Because if you tell yourself in class that I can't do this, you're not going to even allow yourself the opportunity to really give it your best shot if you're telling yourself before you even get going that I can't do this. So when we have kind of negative things replaying in our head constantly, especially as a kid, you're gonna have those moments where you're gonna need to try to rewrite that thinking in order to help you progress more positively. One of the things with negative self-talk is, and I like this, for every negative message there is a positive truth that will override the power and override the weight of the despair that you feel. these truths always exist. Looking for them is usually the key. I can't remember how. There's something that I've always said is that there's a silver lining in every situation. The struggle and the journey is actually finding it. I had a very interesting talk with one of my kids the other day, and he said something to me. He was like, I think it was a good thing that I got taken away, because now it led me to this point where I'm at here. And that was really big for him to say, and I was like, you know what, dude? Hey, that's a silver lining, man. Like, I'm glad that you are kind of working your way to get to that realization that it's important to feel that way. It's important to see that, there was a positive outcome to, the circumstances that you were in, that ultimately the positive outcome was that you were able to be removed from the very negative situation you were in. So here's the thing about positive self-talk. It's not self-deception. I remember my boy Phenom. I did one of those things on Facebook about, like, kind of describe me in words or whatever thing, like a year ago. And I remember Phenom saying, it was like, dude, you are like the true you're like a great definition of what optimism is. And like, I've gone through my fair share of like really, really big struggles, and I tried my best to stay as optimistic as I possibly could. But there was definitely times where it was difficult, and I definitely was very aware of what was going on around me. I was trying to save the situation in an effort to try to maintain the family. But, in the end, I knew that what was best was to, move forward without it. But positive self-talk is not self-deception. It is not mentally looking at your circumstances with the eyes that only sees what it wants to see. Rather, positive self-talk is about recognizing the truth in situations and in yourself. One of the fundamental truths is that you will make mistakes. To expect perfection in yourself or anyone else is unrealistic. To expect no difficulties in life, whether you are going through your own actions or shared circumstances, is also unrealistic. And I think that's one of the common misperceptions about optimism, is that people feel that people who are optimistic are painting the world around them with rose-colored glasses, that nothing ever will possibly go wrong for them. And that's not necessarily true. From my perspective, and it's something that I preach to my kids, that optimism is keeping your head to the sky and the hopes that things will continue to progress forward and move forward for you in a positive direction, but knowing that there will be negative circumstances that will come, and there will be negative situations that will come. But if you stay true to who you are and stay true to the things that you believe in and the people who care about you, that your optimism will help continue to push you forward throughout the negative circumstances. So negative things are going to happen, but positive self-talk seeks to bring out the positive out of the negative to help you do better, go further, or keep moving. The practice of positive self-talk is often the process that allows you to discover obscured optimism, hope, and joy in a given situation. So, you may ask yourself, why is it so important to be optimistic? Or not even so much optimistic. Why is it important for we as black people, and especially black men, why is it important for us to use self-talk? Well, I'm glad you asked. There's someone, Black Guy DIY on Medium.com wrote this 2 years ago. The importance of self-talk, the importance of black guys understanding self-talk. Right? So we talk about inner voice, and we talk about the two types of self-talk. There's positive self-talk. This is stuff that makes you feel good about yourself and the things that are going on in your life. It is about having an optimistic voice in your head that always looks on the bright side of things, that looks for the positive even in situations or moments where you are going through negative things. Negative self-talk is the stuff that makes you feel bad about yourself and the things that are going on. It takes a place of negative spin on anything, whether it's good or bad, even things that don't necessarily involve you. Negative self-talk puts a negative spin on it. It is important, right? So fellas, it is very important to listen to your inner voice and listen to the ideas and the environmental stimuli that will foster positive self-talk. It is important to constantly assess how exposure to certain people, places, things, ideas make you feel about yourself. So, black men, this is important because looking at positive self-talk as black men, it is important to think back on the ideas, the people, the places you've gone, the things that you've experienced that have taught you about what it means to be a man, what it means to be connected with your emotions, what it means to treat black women or the women that you're dating, what it means to interact with people in the LGBTQ community, whether it be gay men or trans men or women, gender non-binary people. These experiences, the people, the concepts, the ideas that have been taught to you throughout your life help shape your self-talk. If you grew up with the notion that you, the black man, is superior and the black man is supreme in his household, it will affect how you internalize and talk to black women or deal with black women who are successful or who have career goals or career oriented. It may make you feel insecure about your own situation, or it may make you look to diminish her shine because you feel like in your self-talk you have to be the forefront. Your self-talk, if you are constantly have been taught that, homophobia or transphobia, it will shape your self-talk in negative ways about the LGBTQ community and how you treat them, how you advocate for their rights. Sometimes forgetting that LGBTQ people make up the black community as well. They are members of our community as well. They are trying to seek liberation as black people just as much as you are. So paying attention to your self-thought. The example here is, you can only watch so much of the news, seeing negative story after negative story regarding black men and crime or black men and negative encounters with law enforcement have a heavy impact on the mind, which I have to say for myself, I have had to have moments where I have to completely check out on, police shootings of black people, just from Tamir Rice. I know Trayvon Martin, George Zimmerman was not a police officer, but still, Freddie Gray, Sandra Bland, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. Laquan McDonald. Like I had to get to a point where I just could not watch the videos anymore. Just seeing just constant death just took a toll on me. It's why on Twitter, I can't even really use Twitter that much anymore because of Donald Trump and the nonsense that he constantly spews on Twitter. Not to mention the $200 date arguments and the men not wanting to pay child support arguments and just the rampant just toxicity on social media at times, especially on Twitter. It's just really hard. So, fellas, let's look at some things that we can do to help change your self-talk, right? Listen to what you're saying to yourself, right? Listen to what you're saying to yourself, whether that's about yourself or comparing yourself to other people or saying to yourself, your feelings of insecurity, your feelings of shame or doubt, your feelings of anger towards yourself or towards other people. Listen to what you're saying. We don't always have time to consciously note what we're saying in our minds. But the first thing we need to do to improve your self talk is to actually pay attention to what you're thinking. For me, actually paying attention to that voice in my head of maybe I'm not really that good at this is always something that I have to keep in mind. When I finish recording these things every week, I have to listen back to it at least once or twice to feel really confident in the things that I said. Albeit, though, as I'm talking and doing this, these things and the thoughts and the concepts that I want to get across just come to mind, and I just go. But then once I actually get done talking, then I start to kind of creep in my own brain and start to nitpick what I'm saying. So I have to always kind of pay attention to what I'm thinking. So the next thing we need to do is monitor our self-talk, right? Is it more positive? Is it more negative? Excuse me. Question yourself and ask these questions about your self-talk. Is there actual evidence to what I'm thinking? What would I say if a friend were in a similar situation? Is there a more positive way of thinking about this? Am I keeping everything in perspective? Can I do anything to change what I'm feeling bad about? Okay. Number 3, change your self-talk, which is easier said than done, but it's a constant process. And the more practice you get at doing it, the more you get better at doing it. All right. And one thing that I like to kind of stress to my kids in therapy is as they're working to shift their self-talk, I like to kind of start it with, let's shift it from negative to neutral. Before we go from just straight positive, let's go from negative to neutral. Let's say to ourselves, okay, first you're going from, I can't do this, there's no way I'm going to do this, I'm going to fail, to move it to, okay, I'm going to give this my best shot, I'm going to give this my all. And if I'm not able to do it, if I can't do it quite right, that's okay, I'm going to try again next time. 2, then shift it to, I got this. I totally got this. I'm going to be all right. It's going to be okay. I'm going to, do what I got to do, and I got this. All right. So it's kind of the subtle shift from negative to neutral and neutral to positive that I would like to work on with some of my kids. And negative self-talk is something that I'm working on with a couple of different of my kids that I'm seeing some results with, and that they're a little bit more patient with themselves and a little bit kinder to themselves as I'm talking with them. So that's one of those things I like to do is kind of slowly but surely shift it from negative to neutral to positive. So next time we're going to talk about negative self-talk, the toll of negative self-talk, and then things that we call cognitive distortions. But one of the things that I'm going to highlight here is one of the other things I'm going to highlight here because there's a list of things that we need that we can work on to limit our negative self-talk. And we'll talk about those next week when I go more into depth about negative self-talk and then cognitive distortions as well, and like the toll of negative self-talk. Like I highlighted here, working to change your negativity to neutrality. One of the things that it suggests to do is build affirmations. I'm trying to find where the article that I actually had that at, because I wanted to segue into that, but I can't seem to find it. That's cool. So, affirmations are a way to help kind of reinforce positive self-talk. And affirmations are one of those things that we work to try to habitually kind of build into ourselves. You know, there are apps. There are like affirmation app on what is that, on iTunes, on the Apple Store. I see my homegirl D posting positive affirmations like every single day. You know, reminding yourselves of like your strength and your beauty, your capability, your all of these things. They help reinforce positive self-talk, because when we have those moments of I can't do this, I'm not able to do this, I'm not capable, you need those reminders of, I'm fearless, I'm valued, I'm loved, I'm capable, I'm smart. Here's an article that I like that I found from Huffington Post. 10 positive affirmations for when Black lives forget that they matter. And good Lord knows, and the political climate we've been in the last couple of years, we've kind of needed these constant reminders. We needed moments like Kofi Kingston winning the WWE Championship. We needed moments like, Black Panther, President Obama was still in office when Black Panther dropped. But we were riding that wave in 2016, boy. We were having just a wonderful time with the Black Girl Magic, whether it was Simone Biles or Simone Manuel, with Team USA basketball, obviously, because we win all the things in basketball, to Black Panther, to so many things. And then, of course, 45 showed up, and, we've constantly been fighting to kind of keep ourselves afloat. So, things to positive affirmations for us as Black people that can kind of go with this when we need to remind ourselves how valuable we are in this world. I'm enough. I will not conform to a lesser standard or appease or appeal to anyone who doesn't accept who I am and what I am. I am worthy. The color of my skin is not definitive of where I belong in this world, and no one will be allowed to disregard my presence or silence my voice based on the color of my flesh. I will surround myself with positive people. I am allowed to acknowledge all that makes me human. I give myself and I like this one. I really like this one. Fellas, listen to this one very carefully, especially in the subcontext of this one. I am allowed to acknowledge all that makes me human. I give myself permission to weep, to experience sorrow, to laugh, to cry, to make mistakes or feel failure, to grieve and to praise. And I will recognize my humanness and be submerged in all of its glory. My body is celestial. I allow myself to evolve. I will trust my process and applaud myself for my progress. I am trying. I will recognize that is enough. I will recognize my good qualities. I am deserving of respect. I practice kindness. I cultivate love towards others, and I have a right to that same energy to be emitted back to me. Being treated like a human is not much to ask for. Therefore, I will make my petition known unapologetically. I will not conform to the ways of my enemy. I will uphold my virtues, and I will not stoop down to the negative actions or opinions from others who do not walk in my light. And lastly, I will love myself unconditionally. The love that I cultivate towards myself will be the calm within my storms. My life is deserving of its best chance. I will walk in the path that promotes inner healing. I will stay grounded and rooted in the fruit of eternal love. I will not be swayed to believe less of myself or what I am capable of becoming. Find your inner voice and speak nourishment into your life. Take control of your conscious mind and find your calm. I think that's the first time I actually read that article all the way through, and I am very happy that I found that article. I think I will share that article on the Facebook page and on my personal page, because I want y'all to have that one, not just as you're listening to the episode. I want y'all to have that one with you, because that was fantastically dope article. Let's see. Let me find one last article I think I'm looking for. And it is, well, it's two more articles. Another set of affirmations I found is 10 affirmations to speak life into your sons. And I say sons because I know I wanted to kind of gear this towards black men. But ladies, these are also pretty applicable to you as well. Affirmations to support your black boy's power, or your black girl, or the black woman in your life, the black man in your life. You are smart. You have purpose. What you're doing is awesome. I appreciate you. I enjoy spending time with you. You are handsome or beautiful. That's number 6. One thing that I want to see, and I want to, like, of course, as a therapist, I'm not going to tell my kids how handsome or beautiful or remarkable, or, compliment them on their looks to a degree. Like, I mean, if there are some issues as far as self-esteem, as far as how their looks go, I can be, reaffirming of ideas that you are, beautiful and vibrant in your own special way as a young person. But for young men, I love that these are, more so geared to cultivate things outside of your typical, sports or, athletics kind of boosting of black men, where like, oh, well, you run fast and you're talented on the basketball court or on the football field, and speaking power and affirmations into other qualities of themselves, of their intellect, what their purpose, knowing and letting them know that they have a purpose in life that they will one day fulfill. Complimenting them on the good things that they do, telling them that you're proud of them, that they're really cool, that they're dope, allowing them to be their authentic selves. I think that that's one thing that I'll do an episode on is, truly learning as adults, support who your kids are, the individuals that they are. Especially for young black boys, they need to know that they can be more than just, an athlete, or that they can be an outside the box young man. They can be a weird, nerdy kid or a smart kid or anything like that. Last article and the last part that I'll talk about today is 15 ways that we can practice positive self-talk for success. All right. And I'm going to go through these pretty quickly because we've talked about what self-talk is, about talking to yourself aloud or in your mind, that it can be positive or negative, and we've done affirmations. This is actually the article I was looking for. So the 15 tips to help you provide yourself with good, positive self-talk for success starts with number 1, have a purpose higher than yourself. Faith in a higher power is helpful in having positive self-talk. Not that it is necessary for you to be religious in order to have positive self-talk. I do have friends who are not religious, who are atheists, who practice positive self-talk. But I know for myself that my faith in God and my Christian faith, my Christian foundation I had growing up, often was my foundation for my positive self-talk, even when I was struggling financially or struggling emotionally, that I had faith that God would be able to provide what I needed and not forsake me in the moments where I was really struggling, to help continue to progress forward. Number 2 is cut out overly negative people out of your life. And we'll do conversations about setting boundaries and removing negative influences out of your life down the road. But yeah, keeping negativity to a minimum in your life by limiting your time with negative people. Being grateful. Gratitude is one of those things that takes a lot to foster, even in children. I think for kids especially, they tend to take things almost for granted in a way, because it is their job to be provided for. As kids, their job is basically just go to school and help clean up the house. So, learning to be grateful for having the basics can sometimes be a hard concept for kids to grab, especially because that's normal. It is normal for you to, as a parent, provide for your kids. So I think for kids, it is something that they have to practice on learning. And one of the ways they can practice on doing that is doing gratitude journals, writing down the things that they're grateful for each day. And it can be small things, it can be big things. This is a big one when it comes to self-talk. Don't compare yourself to others, whether that's men comparing themselves to women, black people in general, or oftentimes black men, comparing the struggle of black men to the LGBTQ community, while completely ignoring that those people exist within our community. At times, this isn't the Oppression Olympics. Understanding and knowing that you are being oppressed, and knowing what level of privilege that you have as black men, allow you to not compare yourselves to other people and their struggles, or feel like their struggle negates yours. So when you are not trying to compare yourself to other people, when you are constantly comparing what you lack to what others have, or comparing what others are trying to do, in response to feeling like it may be taken away from what you have, you'll be able to decrease on your negative self-talk. Use positive words with others. If we use negative words with others, they're likely to be negative about themselves as well. So it's that idea of speak life into others. One thing that I stress to my kids is that when you have more positive self-talk, when you are kinder to yourself with your self-talk, and you talk more positively to yourself, you can then be kinder to other people. When you're kinder to yourself, you're kinder to other people. Believe in your own success. And this is why I was actually going to bring up the New Day at this point, but this harkens back to my conversation about the New Day. Is believe in your ability to succeed. Believe in your abilities. Believe in your skills that you have, so that they can propel you forward towards success. Having that mindset that Vince just gave us probably the worst gimmick ever, and taking it and flipping it to, all right, so now we got the crowd behind us. First they was booing us, and now they're cheering us. We're just going to do what we want now, because pretty much everything we do is getting over, quote unquote, with the crowd. That everything we're doing makes an impact. And that takes believing in your success and your ability to succeed. Number 7, don't fear failure. Easier said than done, I know. Failure can happen. But one thing I tell my kids all the time is that fear of failure holds back many people from ever even trying to succeed. They remain in the status quo in life because they live in the fear of failure. So or as my dad always says, nothing beats a failure but a try. Yeah, you're going to listen to this, Dad, and you're going to be like, yeah, I say that a lot. You're welcome. Replace negative thoughts with positive ones. We talked about that already today. Post positive affirmations. We also talked about that. Don't dwell on the past. Don't be too hard on yourself. Everybody's got a past. Everybody has bad things that they've done in the past. So don't concentrate on your failures or your mistakes or the negative things that have happened in your past. Keep your mind focused on the future and what is possible, especially the positive things that are possible. Visualize your success. And we'll talk about visualization one day on the podcast. Limit your intake of news and media, which we talked about already. Help others. Helping others is a way to bless others, but it also can even be a bigger blessing for yourself. That is definitely a theme in the Bible, that we're blessed to help others. We're blessed to be a blessing for others. So helping other people can help with your own positive self-talk. Be physically active is number 14. And the last one is dream and set goals. And we'll talk about setting goals and how we can work to achieve our goals, what steps we can take to achieve our goals one day down the road. So that's what I got for today, guys. We talked about positive self-talk, the power of positivity. Baby, I'm sorry. I love. It's always funny when Kofi does that. But so we talked about positive self-talk today and the power of positivity and optimism. Remember, optimism is not walking through life like everything's hunky-dory and nothing bad will ever go wrong. Optimism is the hope that though I may struggle, things will get better. I will continue to be able to progress forward, and allowing those that hope that things will continue to improve, or as the intro of the show is, you'll get where you need to be in due time. And that's been a mantra in my life, is that all things come in due time. So remember that as we're working, we want to work to negate some of the negative thinking that we have. And next week we'll talk about negative self-talk and the things that contribute to it and shape negative self-talk. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here on the Captain's Couch. I do this every week. It's been fun to do so far. Hopefully, I will put my application in to try to get in on Podcast in Color soon. But you can find me at Captain's Couch and at Captain Ingenuity on Twitter. You can find me at Captain Ingenuity on Instagram. The Captain's Couch has a page on Facebook. Like the page. Podcast is on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. Working on iHeartRadio, and a few other places like Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public. Leave a 5-star review, leave feedback on social media, hashtag Captain's Couch. Send an email at captainscouch84@gmail.com. Send me a DM, send me an instant message on Facebook if you're Facebook friends with me, on Instagram or Twitter. If you want to leave feedback, use the hashtag on Twitter to leave me feedback. Yeah. Didn't have any 5-star reviews this week, so hopefully as more episodes come out, we'll get more of those. We'll read them on air. But then again, thank y'all so much for joining me on the Captain's Couch. This is Byron. I will catch you guys next time. Y'all have a good week. Peace.
Congregation, will you turn your text to the book about cash? Chapter 2, verse 1. The first one that feel me. Jump up and make a joyful noise. Use our cast it. Meaning, now you have a choice like that.